Hi, and welcome to City Desk, a behind-the-scenes look at Santa Barbara's top local news stories. I'm your host, Jerry Roberts, joined by an all-star lineup of local journalists for an inside look at these headlines. Santa Barbara starts toting up the damage from the disastrous oil spill. The feds say there was major corrosion in the oil pipeline long before it ruptured. Plains Pipeline, the company at fault, tries to stonewall the press. And meanwhile, UCSB and law enforcement are quietly trying to shut down the party in Isla Vista. Joining me from high atop the lavish South Salinas Street world headquarters of TVSB, Kelsey Brugger, staff writer for The Independent, Brandon Fastman, also of The Independent, Nick Welsh, executive editor of The Indy, and investigative reporter Melinda Burns. Welcome, and thanks everybody for coming. Kelsey, we're 2 weeks into the spill now as of tonight, and we're getting a clearer sense of the impact. There's a lot of places to look. Let's start with the wildlife. What's the toll there?
Yeah, so as of June 3rd, the numbers are 115 dead birds. I think most of those are pelicans, 58 mammals, most of those are sea lions, 58 live birds and 42 live mammals found. So sent down south for sort of some treatment.
And you were saying before the show that all of a sudden there were like a large number of...
Right, so yeah, I guess what happened is on Monday, this past Monday, the numbers actually jumped significantly. So I think everyone was a little bit shocked, but the reason that was given was because more people were dispatched to go find these animals, wash up on the beaches. And so they actually went as south as Oxnard. I heard a dolphin and a sea lion in particular had washed up, and it's one of those things that you hear these numbers and 115, 58, it's like, what does that mean? And then you look at these pictures. Particularly, what struck me is of the dead dolphin with the tar in its mouth, and that's just pretty shocking.
Yeah, and we've got some photographs by Paul Wellman of the Indy that we're going to be showing throughout the show as we're talking here. What are some of the other effects? What about the tourist industry?
So I think a lot of that remains to be seen as far as if hotels are going to see a huge hit. Right now there's 1,200 workers, cleanup crew, researchers, public servants basically staying in hotels. So it's kind of ironic that some hotels are seeing a big boost in their numbers right now. And then long term, you don't know. I mean, this is painted as Santa Barbara's oil spill. Mm-hmm. So if people are thinking they're gonna, take a weekend getaway or come here from the East Coast, it's like maybe not after this. So as far as tourism, yeah.
I think the city of Santa Barbara should paint it as a Calitas oil spill.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
Now, are your advertisers going to start asking you to do that? You think you should refer to it as
the Calitas spill?
The Calitas spill. But something like the Baccara. Where you pay $87 gazillion a night, it's fairly close.
Right. Well, if you're at the Baccara and someone in one of these moon suits comes up, I can't imagine that is going to sit too well with someone, paying $800 a night. So, I don't know.
And the Fisherman, what's going on with that?
So the Fisherman, 138, I believe, is
square miles.
Square miles is blocked off.
I think that's right. Yeah. That's what I read in your story anyway.
About it, right? A really, really large area is blocked off, right? And so these fishermen, they are, used to fishing there every single day. If you talk to them, they're saying that they're used to natural seepage. They see this oil all the time. This oil is no big deal. That's their perspective. And so it's kind of interesting. I know some of them have ventured in and continued to fish in this no-fish zone. And got caught by, an official who made them dump reportedly $3,000 worth of shrimp back into the ocean. Could you imagine? And so, they're not happy. At this point, I think they're just getting warnings. They're not actually getting tickets. But
they made them put the fish back?
The shrimp, yeah.
$3,000 worth of shrimp.
So the oil company has to keep going, but the fisherman's got to put his shrimp back. That's good. Yeah,
Well,
that's all
well,
working out.
I mean, I'd imagine they'll be able to file a claim
For the shrimp.
for the shrimp, for the lost shrimp.
That's pretty big. That's what, 10 miles by 15 miles, something like that? That's 100,
Yeah,
150 miles.
It's pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And there also seems to have been a terrible outbreak of politicians showing up this
Yeah.
week as well.
they're very concerned.
Is anybody doing anything useful, or is it just posing in front of the cameras, as our Attorney General was
Today, yeah, you saw
I
her,
got
I
to
understand.
see her, yeah. Her, it's pretty impressive. She walked this way, and then she walked this way, and so
Did
the
they have
cameras had
her-
to swivel around.
Did they have her put those boots on, those steel-toe boots?
No. And we were surprised that she didn't have to put the boots on. She was, however, Paul Wellman, the independent photographer, very eagle-eyed. So she was wearing sneakers on the beach, and then when she got off the beach, she put flats back on to do her little
To do her press conference.
press thing. So
That's funny. I was out
but
there.
that was
on-
about the most interesting thing that happened.
That happened. The flats to the sneakers, yeah. Yeah, I was out there on Monday, and they had me put on the big, the steel toe boots, and then you have to wrap the boots, and then you walk around, and then you come back, and you get into one of those little pools, and they cut it off, and so.
Did you
it's
get to wear a
quite big
spacesuit?
I didn't get to do that.
Did you take a selfie with the boots at all?
No.
Oh.
Hard
I
hat.
know. No hard hat. No, I had the glasses
Mexico.
though. Yeah.
You did have the glasses? Did you save them? Like at the 3D?
We had to
they
give
just-
them back. No.
Ain't counting them. No. All right. Well, keep track of things, and we'll be back on this. Brandon, the federal agency in charge of the investigation, which I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. Yeah, just what I was going to say. Anyway, their investigation of the pipeline, there's a new report that says there was considerable damage to the line before the accident, but there's a lot of numbers being thrown around. Could sort that out?
I'll try. So they released a while ago what's called a corrective action order, shutting down the pipeline. And today, I think it was today, they released an amendment to that order where we learned some more specifics about what was wrong with the pipe. In the first version, we learned that the wall thickness of the pipe was 0.344 inches. Today, we learned that near the rupture, the thickness was 1/16 of an inch, which is exactly 0.0625, I hope, inches.
Yeah.
It's a lot
I know
smaller.
our readers are out there.
I would try to show you with my fingers, but I don't think I can make a gap.
So
that
what does
small.
that mean, that there's those two different numbers?
Well, on May 5th, Plains All-American reported that there was no corrosion over 45% of the pipe.
And that was 2 weeks before the spill.
Yeah, and if you do the math, 82% of the pipe wall was eaten through.
At that time, before the spill.
Now, but this is only, as you mentioned,
But
a couple weeks
they
later.
didn't report that there was that much, though, did they?
They said no more than 45%. So.
So
their-
would you
their
say
report-
A, it was an arithmetic error, B, the guys were drunk, or C, they were covering it up? What do you think?
You're baiting me. I would say.
It's television.
I would say that as a skeptical reporter, that discrepancy definitely sets off alarm bells.
And you think that's
I
one
don't
of the
wanna-
things that the feds would be looking at?
Yeah, and the feds, they put that information close together on their amendment, so I think they were pointing it out. I spoke with a pipeline investigator today who has nothing to do with this whole ordeal, and he felt like PHMSA was actually using fairly strong language, or using a fairly strong tone in their order. So he thinks they're.
So he was surprised that the sort of just the tone of the thing, that usually their reports are not so sharply worded?
I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but Finsih does have a reputation for being a weak organization with an apathetic culture. That may be unfair. They're extremely underfunded.
But basically, I mean, if I hear what you're saying, their reputation is they're in the pocket of the industry.
They have that reputation. There was
Not to put too fine a
there was in April, Politico did a 3-part story on Finsih, and they definitely suggested that industry has too much input
Yeah.
into Finsih decisions and their
Well,
regulatory actions.
I thought it was really pointed in that report, just how they said it was a 0.45 or 45% reduction, but we found it to be otherwise. And it was all very bureaucratic, but the juxtaposition was hard to miss.
Yeah.
Did they say what distance was corroded? I mean, was it just right there, or was all the whole pipeline all the way back to?
They said there were 4 areas along the pipeline.
In the, what, 50-foot section they took out, or in the whole 10-mile stretch?
In the 10-mile stretch, 10.6 miles. So there, and other what they call anomalies, things worth inspecting. So Plains has to do a lot of double checking of this pipeline before they can start operations again. I thought it was kind of interesting this week that they inserted a new pipeline to replace the 50-foot ruptured section that was removed.
What was up with that? I mean, was it just like cosmetic, or everything's okay now, or what was, why would they do that? I mean, the thing's shut off. It's going to stay shut off for
Yeah.
the
You
foreseeable
keep
future.
asking me to speculate, and I think one.
You know, you should have never become an academic. We just want wild allegations and unsubstantiated speculation. No, I just, I'm interested in your view of what.
Honestly, I thought it could be viewed as arrogant. You know, they just had this spill, and they're sort of rushing to get the oil flowing again when the wound is still really raw.
Mm-hmm.
But another interpretation is that they're trying to show the community that they're fixing this pipeline as fast as possible.
But there's a lot of oil that's not getting out of Santa Barbara County, right? What's happening with that? Well, the pipeline shut down.
Yeah, there are 2, I might ask Nick for help with this, but there are 2 companies that put oil into that line before the rupture. Those are Veneco and Exxon. And then a little further up, Freeport McMoran, which used to be PXP, they also put oil into that line. So their operations are shut down, right?
They're effectively shut down. I think Exxon has
still
about
pumping.
3 weeks of storage
About
left.
20 days.
How much?
20 days, yeah.
So they can pump out and store it in their storage facility. But after that, they have no storage capacity left. Veneco's already exceeded its storage capacity. Freeport has exceeded it. So they're pretty much blocked in. So
Today, Exxon actually applied for an emergency permit or emergency application to be able to truck this oil up north to San Luis Obispo in Nipomo.
Is that safe?
It depends who you ask.
it's a
Oh, I was asking you.
It's 100 trucks a day.
It's more.
That's a lot of
actually.
trucks.
It depends. So it depends how much their production is. They're looking to cut it down to 5,000 barrels per day. But what this emergency application that they just submitted looks for 8 trucks an hour, and that's 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Ouch. Oh. All right, Brandon, and if any of you haven't read Brandon's story, The Mysterious Case of the Automatic Shutoff Valve, it's online at independent.com. It's really a really great piece of work, and he did a lot of what we call actual reporting on doing it. Nick, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's fair to say, I think, isn't it, that Plains has been engaged in a if not a cover-up, certainly a stonewalling. Before you answer, I want to give you this, Nick. It's a special coaster from the Richard Nixon Library and Birthplace, so it'll remind you, it'll inspire you. No, it's impossible.
great.
Isn't that nice? Yeah, there you
great.
go.
There
It's
we go.
perfect. Yeah.
You know what? In my column, I sort of beat up on Plains All-American, but I don't know that it's fair. I think the Coast Guard and the EPA and the whole incident command, they have really shrunk the aperture of information down, and so it really is much more. If you try talking to your own insurance company about an appeal of a denial for a claim, you'll get further than you will talking to these people.
I just wanted to point out that Nick used the word sphincter in his column, not aperture.
The shrinking sphincter. I think
Better alliteration.
Yeah, the shrinking sphincter, and it's pretty tight. And
It's impossible to get any information about anything.
you can't. But what's really brilliant and beautiful about it is that they're so nice. You call up, and you get the nicest people on the line, and they, let me see what I can do. I'll get back to you, and they mean it. But part of it is you have these people coming from out of town. They talk about Refugio. They talk about Goleta. They don't have any understanding of Santa Barbara. They're struggling to figure it out. They mean well, they're working hard, but they have a very limited script. I think what's very weird about this is that the way this is structured is that you have the Coast Guard, you have the EPA, and you have Plains, All-American Pipeline, all as sort of, this troika that is in charge of disseminating the information, and then the county of Santa Barbara and all of its manifestations is sort of relegated to the little kids' table.
Well, and I think that's why they pushed the Coastal Commission out of the way. The governor suspended the Coastal Commission's authority over this thing and so there really isn't a representative for the environment or, kind of California, what's going on.
I think that, people like Linda Kropp and the Environmental Defense Center, they have figured out how to, create their connections with various regulatory agencies, and they sort of work behind the scenes. But what's interesting with the sort of shrinking sphincter effect here is that there was a huge spill recently, I must say 8 months ago, in Arkansas. And it was a massive environmental nightmare. And the company and the government agencies so insulated the site from media, perception, penetration, observation. Planes couldn't even fly over. So there is this.
Well, I thought that was the case here. No,
I think planes can fly over.
They're not shooting down.
They're not shooting down. You can't have drones. It is a drone-free zone. But Kelsey went to, and I think it was first billed as a town hall forum.
Right. Well, yeah, that was the weirdest thing. It's like it was first advertised or displayed as this idea that I was expecting to get there and there would be a lot of angry people asking questions, and it was going to be a good story, and it was sort of an open house.
But it was everybody was at a different.
So there are different tables and different booths, and a lot of effort went into setting this up.
Sounds like
obviously.
a job fair.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It was sort of all these booths. You could walk around. You could talk to people. And find out, what their agency does and what their role is.
And then they tried to bodily remove you from the place. Isn't that true?
That's exactly right. No, a couple people mentioned, this is meant for the public.
People from the oil company said that to you.
Eventually, but first, it was kind of like, this is for the public. This is connecting the experts with the public. And my question was like, is this typical? Like, is this what happens after every oil spill? And
I don't know.
The EPA spokesperson said it seemed appropriate given these circumstances and given the public.
But you're part of the public. You're the public's
that's the
eyes and
funniest
ears
part.
there.
It's like that's the definition of the media is access to the public.
What happened with your guy, your source from the county,
Well, yeah.
who first turned you on to the pipeline story?
Kevin Drood.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Drood, who is the head of County Energy and Minerals Division, he was the one who said, by the way, everybody, guess what? This is the only pipeline not regulated by the county in Santa Barbara County. And guess what? It's the only pipeline in Santa Barbara County that doesn't have automatic shutoff. Interesting coincidence. He spoke to me, and we had it in our paper. He spoke to the LA Times. He had it in, he was quoted extensively in the LA Times.
And
All
also-
unsubstantiated, behind the scenes rumors is that Plains was exceptionally unhappy about this. They expressed their exceptional unhappiness to Diane Black, number 2 at Planning and Development for the county. And all of a sudden, Kevin Drood was telling me, Nick, you should refer all of your questions to the JIC, the Joint Information Center, Nick the JIC. And he was very, Kevin is a very, steady Eddie guy, and he wasn't excitable about it, but he went dark for about a week. And so he was incommunicado, and you weren't going to talk to Kevin for a week. He is now speaking again, which is good. And what's interesting, one of the things that he was talking about is the issue of the shutoff valve. And Greg L. for Lee Armstrong of Plains has said, shutoff valves not only aren't the answer to everything, they can make the problem a lot worse, because if you have a big pressure surge, if you try to shut off too soon, you can have a big environmental nightmare. Well, that has happened. He's not just making that up. But Kevin Drood was telling me, well, it's interesting, if it's such a bad technology, why is it that Veneco not only made that part of its application, but built it and has been operating it well? Another energy company, ERG, likewise, and all the offshore oil has automatic shutoff.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's pretty dismaying, if not despairing and depressing, that they get away with this kind of stuff. It really is. All right, to a happier topic. We're going to talk about Isla Vista. Melinda Burns has been working on a terrific investigative series about what's going on out there in wake of all the tragedy and awfulness that happened last year. And apparently there's some attempted crackdown, at least, on the party atmosphere in IB. What's going on?
Well, I think they're trying to take a couple of different angles on this. And so back in November, the Isla Vista Foot Patrol, which is a substation of the Sheriff's Department, reinstituted its Greek liaison. And so they appointed a deputy to sort of collect all of the calls and information from other deputies on Fridays and Saturday nights from the fraternities and sororities that were misbehaving in Isla Vista. And so there's about 25 of them in the community.
That are misbehaving?
Well, no, most of them are not. Most of them
are not?
No.
A few rotten apples, huh?
Yes.
That's the problem out there?
And so since the fall, basically 3 fraternities have been shut down, and 2 are under suspension at UCSB because of these reports, in part because of these reports. So the deputies go out, and the thing is, if you join a fraternity or a sorority at UCSB, you have to abide by their policy, which is if you have more than 30 people at a social event, you cannot drink. Even if you are 21, you cannot drink. The event, if it's at the chapter house.
You mean nobody can drink at the event if there's more than 30 people?
That's right.
That's news.
And so it's a dry
Stop the
policy.
presses, my goodness.
It's a dry policy. And if I'm talking about the chapter house or the satellite.
How long has that been
satellite,
into effect?
That's UCSB policy for all of their clubs, all of their organizations.
Well, fortunately, it's not on campus, so they can't enforce it.
No, it's a chapter house, and
Oh.
they can. And so I think that the fraternities were very surprised when this started happening and deputies would show up and tell them that they couldn't drink. And they thought that with a wink and a nod, they could drink and they had a right to drink, and now they have been set straight. And so you had, so you have kind of I would say a crackdown in that.
And also they're trying to get the apartment owners mobilized.
Yeah, so a much harder problem to solve is the problem of privately owned rentals, which become in one weekend to the next sort of a mega party location. And mega parties are when you just have hundreds of kids coming in from the street. Maybe you don't know them. Lots of times the hosts of these parties are happy to see the sheriff's deputies show up.
You didn't do that when you were out there, did you? I didn't think so.
They just kind of lose control of the situation.
Yeah.
You got people in those crowds who are stealing stuff.
So has it been successful? They tell the landlords what's going on?
Well, what they're doing now is they have this arrest and citation log, and they make that available to landlords who request it. And every week you can get a rundown with your address, and you can look up your address and see how many people were arrested there. And you can sometimes get a video of the party because the sheriff's deputies and the UCSB police are videotaping from the street.
Well, those will go up on YouTube, probably be pretty popular. And you've got part 3 coming up. Who owns Isla Vista? That should be kind of interesting. When's that going to run? Is that going to run pretty soon? She's finished writing. I don't know why it hasn't been. All right, well, we're going to be out of time, and we're actually going to be saying goodbye for the winter-spring series of City Desks, and we will be back with you in the fall after Labor Day. We're going to be in summer reruns for the next couple of months, but please do contact us at sbcitydesk@gmail.com or check us out on Facebook at SB City Desk or on Twitter, SB City Desk. And we'd be interested to hear your comments and questions and criticisms. And thanks again for watching the first series. Bye.